I'm Erik Kain.
Paul Tassi.
And we're back for another episode of A Podcast Has No Name, aka our Game of Thrones podcast, which is almost over because we only have 2 episodes left.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is sad. You know, as much as I think we're about to just like lay into episode 4 like really badly, when it's all said and done, I'm really going to miss this show.
Yeah, like I don't really expect it to end well at this point, just given the signs we've seen, but I would still watch like 5 more seasons of it.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think the prequel series is going to be the same. But
no, you know, it might be really good, but it's going to be really hard to replicate just what a phenomenon this was. And
yeah.
Especially because when you look at the better years of this show, you know, they were based on the better years of George R. R. Martin's books. And, you know, they're not going to have that guidepost to go by.
Yeah, it's going to be based on nothing. And it's not even going to have the Game of Thrones showrunners. So, like, it's kind of just
a good thing, actually.
Well, it could be, or it could be not. Yes, it depends. But yeah. So that's kind of a total unknown.
Yeah, it is really. I mean, we don't even know what to expect at all, or what's going to end up getting renewed, or what's not going to make it past a pilot, or.
Oh, that'll make it past a pilot.
Well, I mean,
some Game of Thrones prequel show will, yes. Because what it will be has to.
Yeah, I think the main one they're working on is like a set like thousands of years in the
past. Yeah,
past.
it's the one that's like 10,000 years ago or something. So it's just like the old Valerians and. I don't know, the First Men. I don't even know. I don't know enough about the full timeline to.
Yeah, me either.
That, but
I do think something set like in Dunk and Egg, or like something set closer.
They specifically said they're not doing Dunk and Egg. So
yeah, well, even if something that wasn't, it wouldn't have to be that particular story, but something, you know, that had like knights and jousting and tourneys and, you know, in squabbles between houses. Like that is really, I really do think that's the secret to Game of Thrones success. And it's that specifically medieval fantasy. And, you know, I don't know if they'll be able to capture that same vibe in, you know, this high magic ancient Valyria. It's a very different, you know, anything outside of Westeros, even when you go into like Daenerys' storyline in earlier seasons, which is so foreign, that has never been the strong suit of either the books or the show. I mean, you know, this is a good point, I think, to pivot to Dany and to her character, because one of the things that I've been saying for a long time is that she's turning into a bad guy. And they really pushed that hard last week. And then I found myself thinking, I don't like this, actually. Like, I feel bad for her at this point, and I don't understand her character development. I don't know why she's going bad, and I don't know that they've ever done anything in the show to really explain that to us. And now they're just sort of like, let's kill off everyone who loves her and leave her stranded, and what? Make her turn into a bad guy? We already have Cersei, who's very bad, and her magic ballistas and her magic Euron, and I don't know. Like, it's just it just feels weird to me, like, because Daenerys had an arc, and then it kind of turned into something else, and I'm just not quite like. I can't really point to like, oh, here's what did it. Here's where she started to go bad. Here's what, you know, motivated. Like, why did she? What is going on? And I feel like this is another reason why we needed more episodes, more seasons to really fulfill that arc.
Yeah, I would agree and disagree with you. I think I agree that this whole situation just kind of sucks and feels uncomfortable and like is not how I want the show to culminate with this like Dany versus Jon thing. I would disagree in that like I do kind of understand how we got here. And this is the problem, is like it's hard to view Dany as a villain, even though like she's, you know, quote unquote power hungry. But like, I mean, given her arc to date, can you really blame her for like doing all this stuff, amassing all these armies, getting all these dragons, going to Westeros, helping save Westeros with this, you know, random king guy who she also likes, losing 2 of her dragons, like in this war, losing, you know, Jorah, losing half of her armies. And then suddenly she doesn't even have the claim to the throne anymore. And so like, I guess it's like the nice thing is like, oh, Dany, you're not next in line. You really should just like agree to rule with Jon or like pass things over to Jon. But like I do understand why she would be pissed and why she would want to consider just wiping the Starks out and just be like, screw it, like I've earned this. That said, it sucks to see unfold. Like no one wants this to happen. So I feel like we're kind of trapped in this Game of Thrones philosophy where like you cannot have a happy ending here. Like something shitty and awful is going to happen that you're going to hate and you're going to be sad. And that's either probably going to be Jon dying or Dany dying or them killing each other or both of them dying. And it's just, that's going to suck and just not feel good, but like not even in like, oh, what a twist way, like just in a very bad, sad way.
So like on one hand, I can see why she'd be pissed, but on the other hand, it's like her whole family was wiped out and there should be a part of her that's very happy to figure out that she's not the last of the Targaryens and that she is not alone in this in a way that she was before. Like she has someone who could be such a good ally to her, like her best possible ally. And to me, like the complete rejection of that idea at all is strange. Now, I think it's, again, an issue with adapting the books because in the books, spoilers for the books, there is another character who has a claim to the Targaryen line. Right? Like,
yeah, I always thought that was weird. That was a weird plot line to erase because it's like hugely important.
Right.
But
it's very, very important. It comes in later in the books, so it's always been a little weird. But it's something where you can see how when that character and Daenerys come eventually, theoretically, we don't know, but when they eventually come across one another, there could be some conflict because there's I don't know. My
guess is that kid won't survive long enough for that, but I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, I mean, I think...
Well, in the books then, if they reveal the same Jon thing, then she has two people over her for the throne. Then it's like a whole other can of worms.
With Jon, I feel like maybe this would have worked better also if there'd been more time to flesh out their relationship. Because, I mean, basically they met in season 7, right?
Yeah, the whole relationship with Jon was really rushed. Like season 8 might be rushed, but season 7 was way more rushed. And it was like 3 episodes where that whole relationship developed.
Yeah, and then it's like, and now it just doesn't work because it doesn't. I mean, so many of these things don't work because of time, because there wasn't enough time to create the interesting character dynamics and relationships and motivations and situations that would have created a more compelling drama. I mean, they're trying to force in some of this like cloak and dagger stuff, right? With Varys and Tyrion, and but it all happens so fast. Like Varys stuck by the Mad King, and then he stuck by Robert Baratheon, and then he stuck by Joffrey. Like he was working behind the scenes in his own way, manipulatively and all that. But he's barely been around Daenerys, and she's much better than Joffrey.
Right.
And better than Robert. And Robert was a terrible king, and better than the Mad King. I mean, she's better than any of the last 3 people that Varys worked for, and yet here he is, like, starting to plot.
She'd honestly
already.
Probably be better than Jon too, if we're really, because like she knows how to at least rule, whereas Jon is just so wishy-washy and like doesn't want any responsibility. Yeah, I don't even know if he'd be a good king. Here's the other thing is like I get that everyone's focused on the Daenerys half of this, but like I think I'm almost more pissed at Jon because like the desire to just feel like you have to tell your sisters, including like Sansa, the new secret whisperer, like you're the biggest secret of all time because you owe it to them or something, like is just, it's so nonsense. And like you can say like, oh, well, he was raised to be honorable by Ned Stark and he cannot tell a lie. But like, guess what Ned Stark did for 1,000,000 years to keep him safe? Tell lies his entire life.
Right.
And protect his, like Ned was the most honorable dude ever, but he realized that harm would befall his child, his family, everybody if that secret got out. So he kept it a secret. And then Jon, like 30 seconds after finding out, starts telling everyone else when he knows the concept. And like that was like an awkward scene with Dany the week before, but like, or 2 weeks before, but like she was right. Like as soon as he tells anybody that, like it's over.
No,
like
that
it's
was
gonna
last week.
It's gonna hurt her. I thought that was right before the battle started.
No,
I thought that was
before the
ago.
battle. It just was their conversation was cut off. then this last week when John's a little drunk and she comes in there and she's like a little flirty with him and and she said, I never beg anybody for anything, but I'm begging you, you know? And
Oh yeah. And then she's like, I told you how it would work.
He's like, we can all find a way to live together.
Them. And he's like, but
yeah.
And like he's flat out wrong. Like if he really does not want to be king, or like at least try to get people to elect him king, he should not have told anybody. And like knowing that, he still did it either because he's an idiot or he actually does want to be king and he's just like lying to himself.
Well, I don't think he does, but I
don't think he does either, which is why.
And I think that this is maybe not so much of an issue with John as a character, but with the show having to push the plot. And so we have John do something that certainly, even if he felt the need to tell them, he could have waited, you know, until after the war was over. That would have been smart. At the very least. I mean, rather than sow division between all these characters more than there already is. And also, I feel like he should have taken Sansa's side in the battle planning stage and said, hey, look, we can't go to war like this. There's a long march ahead. Everyone needs to rest. We're rushing things. We're going to make mistakes. You're going to get a dragon shot out of the sky by magical arrows. You know, he's become a plot vessel rather than a character at this point, which is very frustrating because, you know, he is supposed to be like the main character, I think. And I think so much is happening right now where he's just, like you said, wishy-washy, or he's just, I don't know, he's not living up to any expectations. And yeah, he had no reason to tell them. He had no reason to keep it secret forever either, but he certainly could have waited. And I think then you get into this stuff where, you know, in the Battle of Winterfell, he was completely ineffectual as well. Like, he basically did nothing. He didn't kill the dragon. He didn't fight the Night King. He didn't barely even help burn any of the army of the undead. He flew around and he sat around and he got chased. So we have this central figure, basically, one of the most important characters in the books and in the show, basically just making a mess of everything constantly. And that is a weird way to treat a character like this at the end of a story.
Yeah, well, and the other problem with the battle was that Daenerys saved his ass like 5 times.
Yeah.
And if they are going to do this, like, pit them against each other, like, and at that point she knew the information and like she could have killed him without anyone even seeing. And so now if she turns against him, it's weird.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I don't even know what to.
All right. Well, we can move on to one of the other awful moments of this episode, because we both wrote like top 10 lists of how awful all these moments were, so there's plenty to choose from.
I know that was I had to write my top 10 list.
That's a major one because it's like the whole future of the show.
When you wrote your like every bad thing, and then I was like, okay, what am I gonna write? And every time I started to like construct something to write, I was like, no, I have to say my own thing about it all because it's such driving me crazy now. Yeah, there was a lot that went wrong with this episode. I think the Jaime Brienne thing has been really controversial. Ugh. Shippers are super. I think shippers were happy, but then Jaime left, and then the shippers were not happy. Actually, I would say this
so bad. Both of those scenes were bad for different reasons.
Well, yeah, no. See, if they had just had Jaime leave and Brienne want him to stay, and they had never had that romantic thing, and it was just like a friendship thing, and she was just worried about him or something, and maybe that would have worked, because in a way, this episode was about like destroying shippers' expectations. You know, like Arya turned down Gendry, and Jaime left, and all is terrible in Jon and Daenerys land, and Missandei is dead, and you know, so there's so many things that are like the breaking up of relationships. But it's sort of weird that they had them go to that terribly awkward sex scene first.
Yeah, that was bad. Like, I'm okay with them being shipped and like them having romantic relationships. I think that scene was just horrible and like
Hitty
not
sex?
romantic or sweet or anything. And horrible. It was like the worst sex scene in the show's history. Not even from like a graphic perspective, just in terms of like its setup. It was just terrible.
Yeah. It was better when Jaime sort of forced himself on Cersei in the Sept by their...
Yeah, that's probably the second worst.
That one was still less awkward and weird. I mean, it had some emotional depth to it, at least. It wasn't just like, hey, we're drunk, you're a virgin, let's let's bone it out now. Like,
Yeah, that was
so
very
bad.
strange. But then,
After that
I mean,
beautiful scene in episode 2.
Even worse was the scene of him leaving, because like that to me just felt like they're trying to trick the audience, and like I still don't really like. Is Jaime really supposed to believe that like, or are we supposed to believe that Jaime is going to try and help Cersei, or is this a ploy so he can go and assassinate her, or like does he truly believe it and then he's going to assassinate her? Like it just it was not believable to me that after like the last 5 years of him like distancing himself from Cersei and like becoming a better man, that like he hears like, oh, like the city's gonna burn down, I need to go be with Cersei.
You know what?
And like that's it. Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
It is like they're trying to fool the audience, and I think that if they hadn't been trying to fool the audience, they could have had him say something along the lines of, she's pregnant with my child. I have to try something. I can't just sit here. Like if he has any feelings left. He doesn't know that?
No, Brienne doesn't know that.
But that would have been a good moment for him to reveal that to her.
Yes.
Something like that.
The theory I read was that he's just saying that to like make sure Brienne doesn't follow him and be in danger, but he really knows he's going there to like kill Cersei.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean. Like it's so confusing. Like it's just such a mess of like character motivations and like trying to trick the audience and trying to trick Brienne or not, or being honest. Like I had no idea what to make of that scene, in not like a fun mystery way, but like this doesn't make any sense kind of way.
It would have been better if both Brienne and Jaime had just gone south with Jon.
Yeah, I don't even think they needed.
Like it just feels like all this weird. Yeah, it's just. I wish they just. I was having a lot of fun with this episode when they were having their little drinking game, and it was all. We got more of that character stuff, and then it just dovetailed into this weirdness with those two, and then weirdness. I don't know, just again, like all this stuff making Daenerys look bad, and then they march off and they fly off and then suddenly Rhaegal's getting hit by not one, not two, the 3 giant crossbow bolts, perfectly aimed into his wing and his flank and his head from 1,000
downtown.
meters on a boat on rocky waters. Just absolutely.
That's one of those
absurd
scenes where it's like you could just instantly imagine like 10 other ways they would have written it to make more sense, and then they just didn't because of plot device. Like we need one of the dragons to die.
Yeah, one of these dragons.
I was confused because I forgot what Dragonstone looked like, so I thought they were at King's Landing for like the first time I saw it, and so I was like, I didn't understand that it was an ambush.
Yeah,
like that they were surprised by Euron, like at their own home base, essentially. Like that, to me, that was not made clear, and I think a lot of people missed that and may still not even understand that, just because they don't know exactly what Dragonstone looks like in the 2-second shot from the outside.
What would have been better is if, and I just thought of this, but if Euron had gone and like taken over what small remaining force she'd had at Dragonstone, and then like when they got to the castle, they were like going up into the castle, and his men were all dressed up like Targaryens or whatever, or like her people, and then they.
Yeah, or there's like some Targaryen ships there with like Targaryen sails, but really it's Euron. Like
exactly.
That would have been
deceptive,
a lot better.
And then but instead it's just like there's Euron with his big old grin, and he's just, and then these damn weapons are just like, it's like an evolutionary technology. It's like they've got machine guns all of a sudden. Like
I guess that they did set up the dragon crossbow like a couple years ago,
yeah, but it was not actually that effective a couple years ago, and we had no reason to think that they would suddenly have like ballista mounted ships and that they could fire with insane accuracy and devastating force. Like this was not, I don't know, this was never seemed like, it seems like a really stupid, it's just very stupid.
Well, it just goes against the whole mythology of dragons from the show and the books, where it's like dragons are these like hugely immortal things. And I think everyone was like somewhat okay with the Night King being able to kill a dragon because he's the fucking Night King. But like Euron on a ship, like a moving ship, firing at a moving dragon, hitting it 3 times and like killing it is
It's bad.
I don't think anyone appreciated that.
I don't think there. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that were like, "Well, that's so cool. Like nothing that Game of Thrones does is bad." But
Yes, there are plenty of those.
I mean, they could have like they. I don't know. It's very disappointing to have these dragons built up so big and then have them one of them taken out in such a pathetic way. And if they had simply crafted a better ambush, you know, like if they had landed on Dragonstone and they had been ambushed there, and then while the dragon was sitting there, you know, stationary, they'd shot it or something, you know, like they positioned Ballista up on the castle itself, or you know, you could have had another, not Red Wedding, but similar, like where you thought she's just going back home and it's all good. And then suddenly all these people who you think are her people, you know, start killing her people. And then you watch as Euron makes off with Missandei, and, you know, Grey Worm is knocked out in a fight and can't get to her. And I don't know, you know, they could have had this big, exciting, dramatic scene. And instead it was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like there was a better way to do that. They just didn't figure it out.
They had 2 years to figure it out. We can write a better scene in 4 minutes. That's what's so bad. And I don't mean to say like we could do a better job with Game of Thrones, because I know what people will say. They'll say, oh, you critics, if you think you can do it, why don't you go? Well, I don't have millions of dollars in a budget, and it's not my job. Budget. You know, like for whatever reason, you know, these guys are showrunners and they have a big budget, and we're critics. But you know, if a critic can write a better scene or sketch out a draft of a scene in 4 minutes, then there's something wrong. And that's all I'm saying. And why didn't Daenerys then, after realizing that they could shoot at her if she drove headlong at them, circle around back and burn them from behind? I mean,
that was one of the tactical things. Like, okay, even if they can flip those around fast, then you come at them from straight above, because they cannot aim those vertically. It is impossible.
then things would come right back down.
Euron just lifts it up with his bare hands.
As his shirt breaks through the strain of his muscles.
I love how overpowering they made Euron. It's amazing.
Now, see, in the books, Euron has a horn that can, theoretically, we don't know for sure, but may have the power to control dragons.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
I'm sure that'll come up.
That would have been an interesting thing if it had been built up properly. I don't know. Maybe that would have been stupid.
I don't know why they cut that. That would have been a really easy thing to introduce.
Yeah, like it could have had a whole
this
interesting
dragon horn artifact. Like, let me on your team.
Yeah. They cut so much from the Greyjoy stuff and replaced it with this cartoon.
To be fair, a lot of the Greyjoy stuff in the books is awful.
It is. It's just,
I like the Euron stuff, but the whole stuff before that, like the whole King battle, is really bad.
It's too much. It's just that Martin got, instead of having things happening over on the fringes that we hear about, he decided he needed to tell us every damn story. And
so that's how we got Dorne and the Iron Islands in those books.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, the show's done a good job at reducing the clutter. But in doing so, they have some missing pieces that make the whole thing come together in a strange way.
Yeah. Well, all of this leads me to my least favorite scene, which is the wall scene, where I hated pretty much everything about that.
Which scene?
The wall scene, the last scene at the wall. For King's Landing.
Oh.
Not the ice wall.
Oh, God. See, I was confused. Wall. I thought you meant the wall. And I'm like, wait, they went to the wall in this episode? Missed that.
Okay. First of all, there was no reason to set some sort of meeting where Dany asks Cersei to surrender, because, like, why on freaking earth would Cersei surrender when she just murdered one of Dany's dragons and destroyed her entire fleet? Like, in what possible reality was that a reasonable thing?
The show justified it by saying that she needed to present
to act give her a chance.
Small folk, to the people, so that the people,
because the people were there and like even know that's happening.
People even care at this point. They're just like, you damn lords and ladies.
People are just props. Yeah, like nobody cares.
Like
number two, the way that was set up, were them in clear distance of like 5 bazillion ballistas, like on the wall, where she could have easily just wiped all of them out with their like 24 unsullied and like 1 dragon that they could have also shot at from that distance. And like Cersei is in no way the type of character to like respect parley. Like, she blew up the freaking sept when she was supposed to go on trial. Like,
and her dad.
There's no way that she would respect that. And then that leads to number 3, Tyrion making his heartfelt plea, which, and then I'm going into subsections here. A, doesn't make any sense because there's no way that after the whole thing with him making his way to Cersei and like her promising to help because he's pregnant, wants a better life, that he would actually think that she would like just surrender after like totally breaking her promise to help them. And B, there was no reason that Cersei wouldn't just light him up with like 6 million arrows. Yeah. Like she just hired Bronn to assassinate him like 5,000 miles away. Why would she do that and then not want to like see him die in front of her? Like, how is that not better? And if she's trying to make an example of someone, why not kill the queen's hand, who you hate with a living passion, and then just execute Missandei instead? Like, it would have been the same thing, but you would have also gotten to fulfill this personal vendetta you've had for like 6 years. That made no sense.
Yeah, I think that whole thing, my guess would be that they were setting up Tyrion to go say what he had to say so that Euron would hear it. Euron,
what is Euron hearing?
He's hearing Tyrion say that he knows that Cersei's pregnant. And how would he know that?
Oh, I didn't even catch that. I mean, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. But okay, I don't think that was the tactical reason for doing that.
So here's something. Here's what I will say, and this is something that has occurred to me recently. So here's what Maggie, the witch lady, tells Cersei. She says, Cersei says, "Will the king and I have children?" And she says, "Oh, aye, 6 and 10 for him, and 3 for you. Gold shall be their crowns, and gold their shrouds," she said. "And when your tears have drowned you, the Valonqar shall wrap his hands around your pale white throat and choke the life from you." Now, it doesn't say, like, your little brother will wrap his hands about your pale white throat. It says the little brother shall wrap his hands about. And Euron is a little brother. So it's very possible that they're setting up Euron to kill her because he realizes she's been lying to him. It's not his son, etc., etc. I don't know.
I've heard this theory.
He has a little brother.
I might expand on it, but like, how deeply unsatisfying would it be for Euron to be the one to kill Cersei? Like, out of everybody with a vendetta against Cersei, to give that moment to Euron. Like, I get that it could technically qualify for the prophecy, and I've heard that, but like, that would just be, I don't know, very not good in my opinion.
It's hard to say. I mean, I think again, maybe because it hasn't been built up properly, but I think ideally it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have her own ally turn on her, because that's what she's done so often. And it would spare Jaime, and on some levels I don't want Jaime to have to be the one to kill her because he's changed. He doesn't need to.
It does make more sense because like the big theory about Jaime killing Cersei, like he would also have to kill his unborn child, whereas like even if he wants Cersei dead, I don't think he wants to kill the baby.
I might write about
this. For that reason, I
might write about this. I know you've had a couple Cersei prophecy posts recently. I'll throw my hat into the ring. It doesn't make much sense to kill someone who's pregnant with your own child unless you have to do so in a way that would save a lot of other lives, I guess. That's the only way I could see that working at this point.
Yeah, it would just, I don't know. It would be such a bummer that he would get the last like villain kill of the series. I guess if we're pretending that Dany is a villain,
right? And
you know, could
someone would have to kill Euron still too.
I don't know.
Not that anyone could, because he's invincible.
Right. Yeah, Euron just grows wings and takes off.
Ramsay Bolton is like, just give me 20 good men, and Euron's like, I don't need 20 good men. Do it on by myself. Yeah. Well, anyways, back to the scene at hand, though. Yeah, you're right on all those counts. It was.
Well, and then killing Missandei just seems extraneous. I don't know. Like, I just feel like she deserved better.
She was captured off screen, held captive for 3 seconds.
Literal sacrificial lamb. Like, do we really need to like reinforce that Cersei is evil? Like, Daenerys already lost one of her dragons. I feel like she'd be mad enough about that without having to like execute Missandei. Like, that just seemed like a moment that was concocted for there to be like, a shocking ending for no other reason than
Well, and
having a shocking ending. When like the logical thing would have been to kill Tyrion, but since they didn't want to kill Tyrion, they did that, and that just
it was super weird.
was weird.
I think again, it's another plot, just a plot device, which is just isolating Daenerys more, having Missandei go out on the Dracarys line or whatever, which is, you know, basically telling Daenerys to burn everything, giving her that last incentive to be vengeful rather than merciful. It's all pointing in that same direction. So,
what I guess we'll close with my theory for next week. I'll stick with my old one where Arya and the Hound infiltrate the palace through the Red Keep because they're not really they're just letting anyone into the Red Keep. They get into a big fight with the Queen's Guard in the mountain. Jaime also shows up, and I'm still going to stick with him being the Queen Slayer to prevent some sort of catastrophe. Meanwhile, Jon and Dany have to like pretty much come to blows outside the wall because she is going to burn the city down, and Jon doesn't want to let that happen, and that might be the breaking point between the Starks and Targaryens, and that's a different kind of conflict outside. But that's just my quick.
I think that all makes
theory.
sense. I'm not even gonna do a theory right now. I think yours works. I really want it to be a better episode than last week, though. I really hope that it's super contrived.
Yeah, well, it's another like super blockbuster. Like I know that, so there's gonna be some huge battle, whether that's between Cersei's forces or Jon and Daenerys, or I don't know. But
I think it really.
I hope it's good. Like I don't want this series to end badly. It just seems like there's so many red flags that it is not going to be a satisfying ending. And like I feel like there's a way to do like not happy endings that are still good, and like I'm okay if they can figure out how to do that.
Breaking Bad.
But I right, yeah, like but I don't know how much faith I have that that's going to happen at this point. So
the big question I have is, will Cersei survive this episode, or will she be done with? And then
my guess is no. I think the final showdown will be Dany and Jon like figuring things out in episode 6.
Maybe they'll figure it out like over a friendly game of cards or flipping a coin or something.
Another would you rather or have I ever drinking
like
game.
Tyrion's like, wait. We can handle this like civilized people.
I mean, what should happen is like none of the main candidates should really end on the throne, because that just doesn't seem very Game of Thrones. Like Cersei retaining, Daenerys getting it, or Jon getting it just doesn't strike me as like a very Game of Thrones ending. So like either I think that the whole crown will be destroyed or the whole throne will be destroyed and they'll just figure out new government where everyone rules themselves, or it's going to be someone kind of who just sort of seizes the moment, like Tyrion is forced to take it over or something, or Sansa like maneuvers her way into like taking power that way. Like it just keeping it between Jon and Daenerys for like the coin flip as to who gets the throne does not seem like a good ending to me.
Well, remember Daenerys' vision of the throne room, all charred to ash and whatnot. I think that's symbolic of something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
symbolic of the throne room being charred to ash.
That, but of larger than that, the power structure being burnt away.
Well, that was always the goal. She was always talking about how she wants to break the wheel and blah blah blah. But like, her current goal is to just keep the wheel going, just back with the Targaryen wheel, not the Lannister
wheel. So weird.
Wheel.
Again, this is what I was talking about before. When I don't understand her arc of villainy, is because she was going to be the breaker of chains, and she was going to break the wheel, and she was revolutionary, and then she just became like, it's like she just forgot all about that. And I guess that's what Varys is talking about, like. Every tyrant thinks they are have destiny on their side or whatever, but I don't understand the transition.
I mean,
what happened?
The obvious solution here, like if we were going for a happy ending, would be like Dany takes the throne, Dany is comfortable being queen of the 6 kingdoms, and then just lets Jon and Sansa rule the North, and they're allies, and they don't fight. Like the end. Like, would it really be that big of a deal if you did that? It's compromise, but like that's not going to happen.
Or even better is if they ended it and everything seemed fine, but then like they just hinted at her actually, like, there's just one like scene at the very end where you can just see her going even crazier, and you're like, oh boy, this isn't actually over yet. Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
Leave us with some uncertainty. We don't have to know everything.
For the I'm not going to rule out them making a sequel series.
Depends on what happens
someday. There's no way. I mean, probably not with the same cast, but like at least set in the future of this timeline.
I'd really like an animated adaptation of the books.
You know what I'd like? A goddamn good Game of Thrones video game.
Oh, unless From Software makes it, and I have heard the rumbling.
Oh, you're right. That'd
be weird though. Right? It doesn't seem like their kind of game.
I don't think that would be good. I mean, I'm sure that'll be a good game. I don't know if it'll be like good from a storytelling perspective, which is what the main thrust of what I want.
Their storytelling has gotten more elaborate, certainly with something like Sekiro.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'll want to play that.
I mean, I think I'd love to play a From game that's just about knights in Westeros, and it doesn't even have to be about Game of Thrones specifically, you know. But yeah. Oh, one last thing. I've heard rumors that the Dornish will show up. Do you think that's likely?
Who is in Dorne still? Just a lot random ass Dorne. So is there some missing character that we forgot about who could be like the king of Dorne?
There's characters from the books.
Were they ever in the show?
Dorne was so ill used in this, and
I thought they killed. I thought like literally everybody from the Dorne plotline died. Like all the Sand Snakes, the bodyguard in the books,
dude. There's another Dornish brother who is cut from the story here.
Well, there was another.
There was Quentin.
I thought there was or was she one of the Sand Snakes? I thought there was another sister that wasn't a Sand Snake.
Yeah, I think there was.
Where she was like the main character of the Dorne plotline and was like seducing one of the Kingsguard or something like that. But they're not just gonna like throw they're not gonna throw someone random we've never seen before in the mix like this late. I just don't.
They have the Golden Company just arriving. I mean, one of the main pictures is.
Yeah, that's just more of a plot device to make sure Cersei still has an army.
Yeah, the Dornish would be allied with Daenerys and would give her a huge boost. They're very close.
Everybody's supposed to be allied with Daenerys, like Highgarden.
See, they killed off everybody from every other house.
Right, that's why they can just give Highgarden to Bronn now.
That's another that whole scene with Bronn. I mean, I love Bronn, don't get me wrong, but that whole thing was...
I didn't mind that scene as much as the other ones. It was still really weird and out of place. But
it's like, oh yeah, we'll give you Highgarden. You're leaving now? Okay, guards, arrest him. We have all the guards. You have yourself and a crossbow. Like, which, by the way, once you fire, takes like 30 seconds to reload. So the warning shot is a bad idea. I don't know. It's just so careless. That's what it feels like to me. That whole episode, you know, when you compare it with episode 2, which felt so well crafted with great.
I know, and that was like one of the best episodes in series history. So like, this has been such a roller coaster of
quality. How do you do this in 2 years? How do you go through and have such an uneven, wildly uneven?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
Too many times in filming 45 night battle scenes and not enough time.
Not enough time with people going over the scripts and saying, this doesn't really work.
Does this make sense?
The Walking Dead problem, the quality control problem, you know?
Yeah.
I really do think that that these shows, I don't know if they just get too confident or what it is, but somebody going through for consistency and just basic common sense would really help quite a lot.
Yeah, someone like, I don't know, George R.R. Martin.
Not even part of it. Well, he could. They would never give it to him. They're like, okay, where's the script? Where we give it to you 3 years.
Yeah, be like, where are your notes? You'd be like, check back in 2023.
It's just one episode, George. Just one episode. Oh God. All right.
All right. Well, that's our oversized recording for that oversized episode.
You know, we only have 2 more. So
2 more left, and then we'll have to do the prequel series in a year and a half or whatever that's going to be.
We'll have to pick new shows.
Go back to The Walking Dead. I want to watch Watchmen.
Yeah, that looks cool. That's good. And also,
I don't like understand at all what I'm looking at, but
it does look really cool. We can do other stuff like Handmaid's Tale. That would be fun
Oh,
to,
yeah, I love
to
Jaime
write
and
about
Cersei.
and to talk about.
Yeah.
Season 3 is coming up in June. Fear's coming
Yep.
back. And then we've got the
Yes, we have half the season worth of screeners already for it somehow.
half the
People like a
first half
month
of the
early.
season anyways.
Right,
And then
yeah.
there's stuff like The Mandalorian that'll be coming out on Disney Plus. So that could be real interesting.
Oh, right. Yeah, all those Disney shows. So many entertainment stories to cover
Endlessly.
endlessly.
Oh boy. All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.